Hello everybody, today's video is somewhat more philosophical rather than statistical, or given the crown jewel of my current content arsenal, quizzible. Hopefully that word exists. Now, you might or might not know me as someone who is a little bit obsessed with creating quizzes with which to test people's knowledge of Warcraft. You see, doing so requires me to be on a constant lookout for information with which I can later create questions for you. As a result, I oftentimes discover something I have never heard of or seen before myself, and in some cases I find something which I used to know once, but it didn't manage to stay alive in my memory for too long. Something like that has happened recently. I stumbled upon something rather ominous in the context of Warcraft's lore, of course, and it could have dire implications on how Blizzard could evolve the lore behind the old gods, the Void, the Titans, and perhaps more. Hopefully no one has already covered what I'm planning to talk about today. As far as I know, I don't think anyone has. Maybe someone in the comments will prove me wrong, but I hope not. Alright then, let's begin. From what we know, the Burning Legion is defeated. We have beaten Argus the Unmaker, and Sargeras was imprisoned at the seat of the Pantheon, with Illidan as his jailer. Thus ended the Dark Titan's burning crusade, the final chapter of his story thus far. But some empty, unwritten pages still seem to remain. To fully understand the context of the situation, we have to rewind a bit to the beginning of World of Warcraft, Legion. As you may know, one of the highlights of the expansion was that every class could obtain powerful class-specific weapons known as artifacts, the Ashbringer, Doomhammer, the Scepter of Sargeras, to name but a few. From this wide arsenal of powerful artifacts, one of them was unlike the other. Its name was Xal'atath, Blade of the Black Empire, a dagger specific to Shadow Priest players, which housed within it an ancient dark sentience with deep ties to the old gods and the Void. As Shadow Priest players wielded the dagger throughout their adventures on the Broken Isles, the devious consciousness within the blade would often remark on the player's surroundings or comment on specific enemies the priest would engage in combat, and in many cases, her outlook on things was sinister. Later on throughout Legion's lifespan, patch 7.3 was released, and with it brought a new raid instance called Antorus, the Burning Throne, the Burning Legion's seat of power at that time. Throughout this raid instance, Xal'atath, in the hands of the Shadow Priest player, would make several remarks on the ongoing developments within Antorus itself.
So much effort, so much bluster, only to delay the inevitable victory of their betters. Imagine this machinery infused with our power. Interesting. What a disappointment. He squandered his potential by backing the wrong side. These pretenders play at whispering madness. Amateurs. I should demonstrate proper technique.
Upon defeating Agrimar, players were brought to the seat of the Pantheon itself, which Prophet Velen described as the Cradle of Creation, a large Titan platform floating in the cosm which houses 7 grand seats, each for a specific Titan: Khaz'goroth, Golganeth, Eonar, Aman'thul, Agrimar, Sargeras, and Norgannon. This appears to be the very place where they used to convene, the Titan's very own round table within the universe. Here the world soul of Argus was brought forth, and an attempt had been made to sever its connection from the Burning Legion. Sargeras intervened, however, manifesting Argus's world soul as an avatar of torment and rage. After a grueling battle, Argus was defeated, spelling out the last words of the Burning Crusade's epitaph. Though victory atop the seat of the Pantheon had been achieved, something unseen had slipped through. As such, not everything that had occurred at the seat of the Pantheon appears to be truly concluded. You see, when a Shadow Priest player wielding Xal'atath enters this particular subzone, aka the seat of the Pantheon, she says the following.
Long have we sought entry to this realm. To think we have a mortal to thank for giving us our foothold. Your service will be remembered.
The keywords are entry and foothold. True enough, Xal'atath is known for being a deceptive entity given her history, but the tone with which she expressed her satisfaction for being brought all the way to the seat of the Pantheon, it sounds like she's being quite legitimate. You probably might or might not be thinking that Xal'atath there was referring to herself only. After all, it is not uncommon for some ancient beings to address themselves in third-person plural. Based on the rest of her voice lines, however, she uses the first-person singular a lot, so it's clear that the pronoun we doesn't refer to herself only. Apparently, the powers of the Void were unable to access this realm, which obviously refers to the seat of the Pantheon and its perimeter. However, Magni could, and he teleported us there, including whichever Xal'atath-wielding Shadow Priest was present in the raid group. He was able to signal the Titans for them to begin a ritual through which they had attempted to remove the link between Argus's World Soul and Sargeras, so it is obvious that they must have granted him some sort of coordinates necessary for Magni to teleport directly to the seat. Therefore, with the help of the King of Diamonds himself, Xal'atath may be the first Voidborn entity that has ever made it as far as the seat of the Pantheon itself, with clear, unhindered access. Xal'atath chose the word foothold, and, in my opinion, she couldn't have chosen a better word. It not only states the truth behind what happened, but also implies what could potentially happen. Let's investigate. According to dictionary and vocabulary.com, this is how the word foothold is defined. A place or support for the feet, a place where a person may stand or walk securely, a place for providing support for the foot in standing or climbing. There was nothing to prevent her from being there when Magni had teleported us to the seat of the Pantheon, and her presence at the seat seemed pretty much secure and certain. Obviously, Xal'atath did not literally stand on her feet, but she was there as much as anyone who was able to stand there at the time, much like the Shadow Priest wielding her. She did say our foothold, however, and we've already established that Xal'atath is not big on using plural pronouns to address herself. Therefore, she's obviously referring to the Void, the Void's foothold. It is not uncommon to talk about things how they are, even if they aren't that way at the moment of saying so. The seat of the Pantheon is the Titan's foothold, not the old gods. Xal'atath may be simply predicting a possible change in ownership, much like how a good chess player can think many steps ahead and predict the outcome of a match. The first step in the Void's attempt to climb up in their conquest over all creation. The other meaning, whilst keeping Xal'atath's origins in mind, may suggest the potential future for what might happen one day atop the seat of the Pantheon, an initial accomplishment that opens the way for further developments. What developments? She says that they, evidently the Void, have long sought entry to the Titan's supposed meeting place due to its significance. The Blade of the Black Empire, however, achieved that, an initial accomplishment. What developments may occur there one day? Well, based on the Void's all-devouring and manipulative nature, we can assume. We know that the Void has not seized the seat of the Pantheon yet. Evidence, however, suggests that it might seek to make a decisive move one day to capture it and use it for its own dark purposes as a secure strategic position within the cosmos, a captured area in hostile territory, turned into a staging ground to manipulate its power and especially make good use of its contemporary inhabitants. Who might that be? An imprisoned Titan, perhaps? Sargeras. But how? If the Void's search for a way to enter the seat of the Pantheon took so long without bearing any results, how could Xal'atath's involvement reverse its lack of success? She is a conscious being, and powerful too. Possibly, while the heroes of Azeroth were busy at work to defeat Argus the Unmaker, paying the full extent of their attention at making sure that Sargeras wouldn't win, Xal'atath may have taken the opportunity whilst we were so busy to scan her surroundings throughout the encounter's duration to analyze its potential security measures and its position within the universe. Much like how a clever pickpocket studies the pins of a lock to figure out how to open it, Xal'atath may have done something similar. Recently in BFA, we have met with Xal'atath again. This time, she controls the body of an elf, and we saw her depart through a portal to who knows where, and with her went the knowledge of what happened atop the seat of the Pantheon. Now, it is only a question of who is she going to share it with. So based on all the things I've said, I can really think of 5 possible scenarios that could happen now. 1. Blizzard forgets the whole thing about Xal'atath at the seat of the Pantheon, simple like that. Worst case scenario, they may have already forgotten. Let's hope not. 2. Xal'atath will share the information, and perhaps one day, this event will be followed by a priest-specific quest chain, similar to the Warlock Green Flame in Mists of Pandaria, where priests will be offered a reward, maybe in the form of, more voidy animations. 3. Blizzard will instead concoct a different plot revolving around the seat, without any direct connection to Xal'atath's observations. 4. Blizzard will reveal the future of the seat, but no mention will be made of Xal'atath, and perhaps the Shadow Priest who wielded her as well. 5. The story will develop in a way that will make capturing the seat of the Pantheon either impossible or a low priority. I'm sure we would all rather see number 2 happen. For the sake of continuity, after all, it stands out as the most plausible option. But I think I would be lying through my teeth if I said that I feel confident about Warcraft's story developers being very strict on the lore's continuity, so we will see. Number 3, 4, 5 are possibilities, depending on the circumstances, of course. Nevertheless, I think we can all agree that number 1 would be terribly unfortunate. So, what are the odds that a full-on conquest of the seat of the Pantheon by the powers of the Void could or will happen? Well, we need more clues to find out. Fortunately, we have some. Last year in 2018, on the 22nd of November, a Russian content creator called XD held an interview with World of Warcraft's creative director, Alex Afrasiabi, and World of Warcraft's technical director, Patrick Dawson. Conveniently, some of the questions that were brought forth were about Xal'atath and Sargeras. Calm down please, the question on Xal'atath was about her connection to the Alt Gods rather than with Sargeras. Sorry if I teased you there. The interviewer asked this question. The way Wowhead presents it, I quote, "What can you say about Sargeras? In the previous expansion, he has been jailed within Throne of the Pantheon." Obviously, he means the seat of the Pantheon. "Do you have plans to bring him back, or some other ideas, or is he dead for good?" Alex starts off by teasing a little bit, asking what does the interviewer think about it. He replies, "I think he will come back in the future at some point." Alex, being a sly man, then directs attention to his colleague, Patrick Dawson, asking what he would say. The important part of his response is this: "If the story takes us in any way where he comes back, then I would love to see where that goes in." Alex then shares something very important. In certain skies across Azeroth, you can see a constellation now after the Legion is defeated, and there is a red star. Make sure you keep looking at that red star. If it's ever gone, that is a problem. We know the red star he's referring to is the one left behind after Sargeras' imprisonment, which is likely the location of the perimeter within which the seat of the Pantheon as well as Argus is located. However, if it ever disappears, it will be a problem. The fact that he said this makes it at least 90% certain that the red star's presence in the sky is taken into consideration and that it is being accounted for future story developments. If we take Mr. Afrasiabi's words and put them next to the information we have gathered on Xal'atath's involvement at the seat of the Pantheon, with its location indicated by the red star, we can start seeing signs of a potential and probably the most probable future story developments, aka the Void's attack and possible conquest of the seat of the Pantheon and everything else within it. So, if an attack ever occurs, what kind of reward would be waiting for the void there? From what we have last seen, the current inhabitants there was an imprisoned Sargeras and also his supposed jailer, Illidan. The rest of the Pantheon were there too, but it's actually unknown if they have actually stayed there ever since. Then again, Sargeras is a potent being. His powers may be diminished now, I think. But if it were up to me, I would never leave him alone, even with Illidan. So most likely the Titans have either left some form of new security behind to keep the imprisoned Titan in check, or maybe the Titans take turns at keeping an eye on him. Because of that, it's difficult to predict if a Titan or Titans other than Sargeras would get caught the moment the Void would launch an assault on the seat of the Pantheon. And what about Illidan? Is he even alive at this point? Let's imagine a scenario where the Void makes its move. This of course is only a theory, but it is based on hints and the evidence I've discussed in this video, so let's go. Sargeras, no longer in command of a large, world-ravaging army, is vulnerable, and his chances at resisting the full weight of the onslaught afford him only a few moments of respite, before ultimately falling prey to the Void's all-hungering influence. Being inherently a powerful creature, Sargeras is turned into a vessel of the Void's might, on a scale unimaginable. His large capacity for power filled with Void energies, effectively turning the Titan into a catastrophic engine of destruction and madness. Theoretically, Blizzard could make it that Sargeras' body ends up falling apart due to having been physically warped twice already, first by demonic energies, and possibly a second time by the Void, and from his remains, an extremely powerful Void God would be born, similar to Muru from the Sunwell Plateau, or even better, the life cycle of the alien from, well, the Alien movies. You know, the whole thing with that chest-bursting worm and stuff. What about Illidan though? Let's say he still lives and he is out there, hanging out at the seat of the Pantheon. Would he share Sargeras' fate? Would he go down fighting to his last? Or would he survive, come back to us, and report the news? Difficult to say. So far, we've had Illidan play an important role throughout 2 expansions. I am not sure if players would welcome seeing him in the spotlight for a 3rd time without quickly getting tired of him, unless Blizzard put him into a small role, which might then end up infuriating some people for having their favorite character be put into the background, rather than the forefront of the story. I'm going to be biased and describe how I would envision Illidan's future story involving Sargeras' return and his fall to the Void. Fair warning, I've come up with this story off the top of my head because I thought it was cool, okay? Years after the defeat of Argus and the imprisonment of Sargeras, a faint glimmer begins to blink around the hem of the Red Star. A magical distress call arrives. Let's say it is someone from Dalaran or anyone else with a strong sense of magic that picks it up. We study its meaning and where it comes from and learn that it is urgent. We rally together to find and create the means of creating a portal powerful enough that would lead us to the source of the distress call and potentially execute a rescue mission. And so we embark on a journey in search of powerful reagents, resources, artifacts, and knowledge that will help us create the portal. With all the important pieces and materials in place, a gateway is hurriedly open at last. But the connection between the 2 points is not strong enough due to the seat of the Pantheon being so far away, and the portal is also not stable enough, as its creation involved rushing a lot of things. Time was and is of the essence after all. We head inside, we don't have much time on our hands, and we discover that the seat of the Pantheon is on the brink of becoming a charnel hellscape of all that the Void represents. Not like that boring thing in the Emerald Nightmare with a few tentacles sprinkled here and there, but literally an all-out pandemonium of raw, dystopian anarchy. The portal survives long enough for us to escape, hauling with us a terribly worn-out Illidan, and with a ragged breath, he warns us of the impending doom before falling unconscious. We then scramble to prepare ourselves for what is to come, with Illidan's memory of the events that had transpired atop the seat of the Pantheon, providing us much-needed information with which to build the necessary tools and create a strategy. Over time, however, we slowly begin to discover that something is not right. Azeroth's ecosystem begins to slowly decline. Magni detects new, sudden signals deep beneath the planet's crust and senses that it means danger. The King of Diamonds urges us to investigate. Those who choose to investigate at Magni's urging find out that new life forms are emerging near and within the planet's deep places. But how is this possible? We delve deeper into uncharted caverns, and at one point, we stumble upon a group of mysterious, blindfolded figures, and we see them planting and tending to strange things deep within the planet's Earth. Wait a minute. Blindfolded figures? We've seen those before. Soon it becomes apparent that the Illidan we brought with us to Azeroth was not the Illidan Stormrage we know, but a Void's puppet of flesh and bone. Throughout his stay on Azeroth, he managed to sway small pockets of devoted Illidari demon hunters to his side, who would perform the secret duty with which Illidan was tasked at their master's behest. That task was to seed Azeroth with fresh, new Voidborn embryos that would, over time, grow into new old gods who would render the planet vulnerable behind our backs whilst our attention was distracted by the looming threat at the conquered seat of the Pantheon, as well as Illidan's distractions. What would happen next? Well, we can speculate, I guess. I think I've already gotten far enough with my funny little theory, so yeah. Personally, I think it would fit quite well into the rhythm of how most tragic events in Warcraft's history happened by starting from within, when folks least expected, like the assassination of King Lane, for example, or the fall of Lordaeron when Arthas stabbed his daddy. No one expected that, or just the whole idea behind the Scourge initially existing for the sole purpose of tenderizing Azeroth's defenses so Archamon's armies would have an easier time attacking Mount Hyjal. Unfortunately, however, I'm not sure if people who are fans of Illidan's character would feel happy if they saw their favorite character turn out the way I just described. Thankfully, everything I've said is only a theory, so you can relax. For now. Honestly though, the story can evolve in any way really. Blizzard could end up turning the whole thing about the Void's attack on the seat of the Pantheon into a raid. That's possible. Or they could ditch the whole thing. That's possible too. And who knows, they might end up teasing the whole thing through a Stormmound. So what can we take away from this? I think it's clear that the Void has its eyes on the seat of the Pantheon, and we have to keep in mind that Sargeras is there, or at least that's where we've last seen him. Hopefully, if and when something does happen, Illidan or one of the Titans won't happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, what do you think about my analysis, or the video in general? First time I've done such a thing, so please throw your feedback into the comment section down below and tell me what you think. Or, better yet, join our Discord channel. That's where you can stay in touch with me and keep yourself updated on future content. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully, it was worth your time. If not, then you can come follow me on Twitch and donate your complaint to me while I'm streaming, and I'll make sure to address it. Yeah. Anyway, friends, until another time.